watching the Times of India. I am Nalin Mehta. The 7th Pay Commission has been a huge bonanza for nearly 50 lakh public servants in this country, but a large cross-section of people in the defense forces, which is the biggest cross-section of government servants in this country. 14 lakh defense personnel and 18 lakh 18 lakh veterans who get pensions. They are extremely angry with the award of the 7th Pay Commission. There's been a huge cry of anguish from a lot of serving personnel and also from veterans, just to get a sense of what the issues are and why do they matter for our security and what can be done. With us is Rajeev Chandrasekhar, independent MP of the Rajya Sabha from Karnataka, and somebody who's become a spokesperson for the defense forces, who's been trying to figure out and try to find a way out of this morass, really. Rajeev, if I can ask you to tell our audiences first, the 7th Pay Commission, for those who don't work in government, seems like a huge bonanza for everybody who works in government across the board. People don't really understand the nitty-gritties of what the issue is. Right. So why are the defense forces so angry and our veterans? The service chiefs have given letters to the Prime Minister in the past. If you can just sum up the grouses.
So I think we must recognize, first of all, that all public servants aren't the same. In my book, for example, people who serve, sacrifice and put their lives and limbs on the line are a different kind of a public servant, which is the armed forces. The angst of the armed forces, let us say and I want to use the word angst rather than anger, even though I think this angst is slowly converting surely into an anger.
Yeah.
The angst is not a recent one. The genesis for the ill feeling or the angst in the armed forces and the pensioners and the veterans goes back sometime to almost the 5th Pay Commission and earlier.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is complex, but it is very important. And it is important to understand because it deals less to do with the exact money and more to do with the status of the armed forces vis-a-vis the other central government services. Status, honor, izzat are a very important part of the overall ethos of the armed forces. And it is not status like politicians know it, or status like people...
It's not about the Lal Batti.
It's not about the Lal Batti. It is about status in the hierarchy of service, in the hierarchy of command. And that has been, it has always been in the history of Indian military history, that has been a very important aspect. Where the armed forces have always been treated as very high up or significantly high up in the...
move this way,
significantly high up in the overall hierarchy of decision making, hierarchy of security decision making, hierarchy of public service. And over the last 15, 17, 20 years, 2 decades maybe, there is not just a feeling, there is a reality that the armed forces have slowly declined in terms of stature, in terms of relative importance, relative positioning vis-a-vis the police and the IAS.
Right.
And if you were there at that program that day, most of the angst of the military, serving and the veterans, has to do with this relationship that they don't enjoy with the IAS and the police. And there is absolutely no doubt, as somebody who can afford to be dispassionate about the problem, and I have to be dispassionate about this problem to try and solve it, there is clearly enough evidence that the IAS and the IPS, because of their proximity to the political powers, have successive pay commission given themselves sweeter and sweeter deals, and have left the military out in the cold, so to speak. And one of the reasons this becomes almost indisputable is that the military has never been represented on any of these pay commissions. So you have a bureaucrat, you have a judge, you have a retired police officer, you would have a serving police officer. All of them will find their way into the pay commissions, 5, 6, 7. But you will never find any place where there is a uniformed man sitting there or a uniformed lady sitting there and representing the military's point of view. And that, in my to anybody, to any normal Indian citizen who has even a remotest feeling or caring for the armed forces, will say that why not?
If I can just interrupt for a second, one of the things that really struck me in that discussion that you were hosting the other day was, it was pointed out that there were 46 anomalies As far as the military is concerned, vis-a-vis civilian counterparts in the 6th Pay Commission.
Correct.
There are 36 in this one.
Exactly.
And some of the ones, if I can just read out the numbers and correct me if I'm wrong, a military service pay has been given. But in the current Pay Commission, a DIG of the paramilitary forces serving in Leh will get an extra compensation of 73,080 rupees, but a brigadier serving in the same place will get 15,800 rupees.
Correct.
In Shillong, you get 73,000 if you're with the CRPF or with BSF or whatever. As a brigadier, you get 0.
Correct.
In Parliament, if you are a security personnel from the paramilitary forces who are in the security detail of Indian Parliament, as a risk allowance, you get 10,400 rupees. But a soldier of the army serving in Siachen will get 7,900. I mean, this is just mind-boggling.
And that is precisely the point, Nalin, which is that, and in all of these cases, remember, they are serving in close proximity. In Leh, a brigadier and a DIG would be actually serving in the unified command and all of that. They are working together. It is not like a cardiac surgeon who's in a specialized institute and there is somebody else far away. These are all part of the overall system of law and order and national security. There was a particular pecking order and a status and symbolic presence that was given to the military, and that has been whittled down.
Yeah.
So, but I want to say again and again to your viewers that this is really, if you understand where the people are coming from in the armed forces, this is not really about money.
Yeah.
It is about why would you take a brigadier and or even a serving man and put him down in the hierarchy below what his predecessors in the armed forces were. What is the logic? Now, I constantly make this point. If the government has an explanation for this, they should make it. If the IAS or the Pay Commission have a reasoning for it, why are they not putting it out in the public domain? I don't say that the status quo of, let's say, 50 years ago should continue to. Things change.
This is not about questioning the balance of civil versus military.
No. I said that. If you remember, I said, let us not make this an emotional argument about civilian-military disparity or civil-military relationship. We know in India, and we are very proud of it, that the military is subordinate to this civilian political administrative hierarchy. We know that. But subordinate, does it mean disadvantaged? Does it mean subservient? And why are we expecting this institution of the armed forces that does so much to start getting the feeling that they are being discriminated against? And that, in my opinion, is the crux of this. We want today, in the overall scheme of things where we face dangers every day, and the profile, security and risk profile around our nation and in our nation is only worsening. There is this asymmetric warfare that has been put on us. At that stage, what do you want? You want a motivated armed forces, not a group of people who feel that they've been done into or done
among
against.
the things that people are talking about, and there are no clear answers to this why, if I can just enumerate some of these issues. The first, of course, is this question of
representation in the Pay Commission.
Representation in the Pay Commission.
Right.
The second, I think, is the issue of the non-functional pay grade, and in no particular order.
Yes.
And for those who don't know this, it's basically is this that if you are a civilian bureaucrat, you are entitled to get the pay of somebody from your batch who was in the IS. If he gets promoted, you will get the same pay without actually serving in that rank.
And even if you don't get promoted.
Even if you don't get promoted. So that's why it's called a non-functional upgrade. But the armed forces guys are not eligible for this. So automatically all of them who are joined at the same time will actually start earning more money.
Exactly.
The second is that the civilian bureaucrats, many of them now get increments, 3 more increments in the defense forces. 4th year, 11th year and 13th year if I'm not wrong. So something like that. Something like that. And the third is that these allowances have now sort of downgraded the armed forces to a lower level, as you pointed out. So what's the logic of this? When you are on the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Defence, on the Consultative Committee on Defence, what answers do you get when you ask them?
And no answers. And that is precisely why, if you ask me why I've jumped into this, I believe that at the end of the day, every question that an armed forces officer or a man or his family asks, we as a nation owe him an answer. I think if the answer need not always be yes, we agree to what you want, but we must give an answer. And this is where I believe, when you said 46 anomalies from the last Pay Commission, 36 or 40 more in this Pay Commission, and they remain unresolved. not only do they remain unresolved, there is no legitimate answer being given saying this is why we believe your request is being turned down. And that, I believe, is something that the government, and especially the Ministry of Defence, must learn now to do, which is when the three chiefs give a combined memorandum saying this is what we believe we need in terms of compensation and perks and monies for keeping our armed forces motivated, acceptable motivational levels. And I like that phrase, acceptable motivational levels. If the three chiefs give a joint memorandum, then I believe it is incumbent on the government to answer why they are accepting some and why they are not accepting the others.
Good point.
Because a man in uniform is a man bound to act in discipline. He can't create a union. He can't go sit in Jantar Mantar and have a strike. He can't do all of that.
He can't write a
So he
newspaper.
no, he can't do all of that. He can't do an editorial in the Times of India. So he can do what? He asks his chain of command to put forth his request to the government. The chain of command, the chiefs give a memorandum to the government. And I think that they owe it to them to give an answer. Look, we've got your 46 requests. 43 out of the 46 have been rejected on following grounds. The 3 we are agreeing. And by not doing that, you perpetuate this myth, imaginary, self-made or real, that the IAS and the IPS are sweetening the deal for themselves and worsening the deal for the only people in the government who cannot speak up.
So if I can correct my understanding if I'm wrong, what a lot of the military's the serving personnel and a lot of veterans feel is that there's been bureaucratic capture as far as the ministry is concerned. So a lot of the legitimate thing they're asking for in the name of civilian supremacy over the defense forces, a lot of the legitimate reasons, demands are being put aside, and because the political class doesn't necessarily understand what the issue is at stake, in this very complex bureaucracy, they get shafted.
Correct. But having said that, and I think there is a bit of a shafting happening for sure, and I think it is necessary for us to make the government respond, bureaucrats respond on why they are saying no.
It's okay they say no, but they must explain why.
Exactly, because the power of bureaucrat to say no is given. I think it's time to highlight that power is not a unilateral power with no accountability. You can say no, but you have to accompany that with a why. But having said that, Nalin, I want to make one point, one thing very clear. That the pay commission, the matrix of compensation and the elements from the government is no simple, it's not a simple job. It makes Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein's physics work look pale by comparison. This is complicated number crunching, and usually this is why the bureaucrats enjoy this stuff.
You hear about all these fitment tables, very complex.
Very complex, nobody ever gets to understand. But I also believe that a large part of the concern of the armed forces may be driven more by a paranoia rather than substance. That is why, if you remember on that day, Air Marshal Savoor, one of the more respected veterans, went ahead and said that a lot of the concerns in the armed forces may not be genuine, may not be real, may be a question of understanding, may be a question of interpretation. So,
but in because there is a sort of
opaqueness
about the process, so you need to know.
Exactly.
So let me ask you something. The real question is about Izzat. At the end of the day, in Haryana, 50,000 cops couldn't solve the agitation. 5,000 army men came, they solved it. In Kashmir also, the army is the last resort to everything in this country, from blood control to fires, everything. And now everything is the first resort. The question I want to ask you, because since you were sort of instrumental in trying to find a solution, and the only solution to this can come from political intervention.
Correct.
So in parliament and otherwise, what is the way forward? Is there really appetite to solve this issue, or is this just seen as one more bureaucratic wrangling coming out of the
I think there is an appetite to do right by our armed forces, and that is my starting point. There is a considerable amount of appetite in the government and in parliament to stand by the armed forces. Now, is it the case that everybody understands 7th Pay Commission? No. So it is my job today, and that's what I'm trying to do. It is to take this huge complex piece of arithmetic, quadratic equation, whatever you want to call it, and distill it down into a 4-page note on what really are the problems. And if I can get that communicated to the political class and to the government and say, look, these are genuine problems. And we want to stand by our armed forces. We do not want to ever make them feel disadvantaged or discriminated against. And if we can take that and get a whole bunch of public opinion behind that idea, that we will not allow our armed forces to even feel one day or 1 minute that they are taking these bullets despite an ungrateful nation or because of not, despite having people not look after them. We have to give a signal that we look after them. They don't need to worry about this. It is for that particular reason that media, politicians, MPs and the government must come together around the real problem. What is the real issues? What are the real solutions, and how can we make good for the armed forces?
One of the things that we should really have a transparent discussion about is what is the pay structure and allowance structure and so on vis-a-vis all the other services.
Absolutely.
And vis-a-vis other neighboring countries and globally, because that gives you a real...
And I am not even interested, I don't think we should even get to neighboring countries. I think it is more to do with their peer group.
Right.
They have a risk profile, their occupation is a much considerably higher risk, puts a lot more stress on them and their families, and that should be recognized in whatever pay matrix the government comes up with.
So you are confident that a solution can be found?
No, I am confident and I am determined, and I'm pretty sure that there is nobody here in Delhi or anywhere in the...
Politically, I can't see any political party really opposing it if they get the point of this.
Even in one rank, one pension, nobody ever said no to it, excepting nobody understood how to do it. It took a prime minister and took a defense minister to come and say, we will cut through the stuff, we will get to...
So some of the demands weren't met, but many of the demands were met, so it was...
2 years on, you got something.
Yeah.
Now similarly here, I think it will, there is appetite within the government to do right. It is only all that is required is to take that huge complex document and huge complex set of issues and perceptions and paranoia and angst and distill it down into severe problems.
So at the point, let me ask, from Rajya sort of strategic point of view, the first issue is to resolve this 7th Pay Commission.
Yeah.
But would this also then be tied in your view with the larger reform of the defense ministry and the way it works? Or that's step 2?
No, but that is not linked to this. And that is the mistake that we must not make. That in the answer to their angst should not be let us reform.
Because then we'll never see the end of this process.
I think it is important that they immediately start feeling that the government will look after them, that the government is apprised of their concerns, and the government will respond positively, and the political class will respond positively. That they must hear very soon, and I'm confident they will.
So are you putting a timeline on this?
No, I want to complete this process by about September 1st week.
Right. Because already the government the clock is ticking backward, it's going to be implemented from the beginning of next year. Thank you so much, Rajeev Chandrasekhar, for joining us, for giving us a perspective on this, because this really matters for our national security.
And it's just doing the right thing.
Yeah.
It is absolutely doing the right thing for a group of people that we owe a lot to.
Well, on that positive note, we'll take a pause in the discussion, keep watching.